Start. I think everybody knows Chairman Kenley and Chairman Espik. This is Paul Meisner from Amazon Corporation, who has come out to join us in this announcement. Very glad to announce that the state of Indiana and Amazon have reached agreement for Amazon to begin collecting sales tax in Indiana effective 2014, or at the passage of federal legislation if we succeed in achieving that between now and then. Indiana becomes just the fourth state to reach such an agreement, and it is as good as any other state's agreement. I'm also at liberty to tell you that the Simon Properties lawsuit, which challenged the non-collection here in the state of sales taxes, is being dismissed this afternoon. And they'll have a separate statement to that effect. I just want to say how much we appreciate Amazon's collaborative approach to this problem. They agree with us that all those who sell remotely, internet, catalog, or otherwise, ought as soon as possible to be collecting what is duly owed, the taxes owed to Indiana and most other states. But we're willing to work with us even before we get the federal legislation, which is the only way to see this problem completely solved. I've pledged to continue, along with Senator Kenley, who's spent years working on this, the effort for such a federal bill. And that'll be the focus of our efforts after today. But for today, I just want to thank Amazon for their approach to this problem and for being so forthcoming. I can't resist also thanking them for the large amount of business they've chosen to do in our state and the thousands of Hoosiers that they have employed. But that's a subject for another time, really. For today, thank you, Paul, and all your colleagues for working with us on this. I'd like to ask you to say a few words, and then, if they like, Luke and Jeff.
Governor, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. And as you may know, there are more than a few thousand Hoosiers employed by Amazon's fulfillment business in the state. We have made a few $100 million in capital investment and are operating a couple million square feet of facilities in the state. This is our fulfillment business. And importantly, we are interested in bringing more jobs and capital investment to Indiana in the future. Now, there have been calls for legislation that if it were to succeed and survive litigation, that would start sales tax collection this year. But rather than focus on the state legislation, however, Amazon and Governor Daniels and his administration and the legislative leaders have decided to take a different course and to focus on jobs and capital investment in Indiana, and then to take our call to Washington, D.C. to ensure that federal legislation is enacted. Importantly, federal legislation permitting interstate sales tax collection must be enacted. It's the only way to level the playing field for all sellers. It's the only way for Indiana to obtain all the sales tax revenue that is already owed, and it's the only way to fully protect states' rights, to allow states like Indiana to make its own fiscal policy choices. As analysts have noted, Amazon offers customers low prices, regardless of whether sales tax is charged, and we strongly support federal legislation. And we look forward to working with Governor Daniels, your administration, Senator Kenley, Representative Espik, and other Indiana leaders to get this done. We really believe that the time is now, and we'd like to start working together to convince Washington to act as soon as possible, hopefully this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Luke, want to say a word?
Thank you, John. Just briefly, I want to thank Governor Daniels for his leadership here in the state and working with Amazon to reach this agreement, and to thank Amazon for doing it. I think this is going to help push others to recognize the fairness of the position, that this needs to be a unified federal solution. It's going to advance the cause greatly, and I'm just very pleased that we're reaching this point today with the help of a great company and a great leader here in the state of Indiana.
Thanks, Governor. Thanks, folks. Paul, thank you for being here for Amazon, with Amazon. It strikes me so strongly that Amazon truly is just a small part of the problem of sales taxes that have not been collected in Indiana and across the nation. And in fact, in Indiana, as we look at the data, we see that more than half of the sales taxes that go uncollected come from what are known as off-site retailers. It's not the internet. Even with the internet, although Amazon is the biggest player, they're only a small part of the internet sales taxes that have not been collected. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that Amazon is being a great corporate citizen to Indiana to voluntarily come forward and to agree to not only having provided some several thousand jobs to Hoosiers, but actually beginning to collect and remit to the state the sales tax starting in 2014. So we're delighted they're here. Thank you, Governor, for your leadership in this matter.
Questions for anyone?
Will there be legislation this year to establish the 2014 date?
Don't know the answer to that. Don't see that it's necessary, but Jeff has said he's going to go ahead and hold a hearing, keep exploring this issue, and we'll see what that hearing brings.
Governor, why not 2013, sir? What about 2014? Why that?
Well, I think as has been the case with the agreements in 3 other states, there's some real practical issues around how you do this, and the company has asked for that amount of time to get ready. But we think it's a fair answer, addresses the equity question, and we're pleased to have been treated as well as anyone in the country.
Senator Kinley, you've raised this question before, why Amazon but not eBay. I wonder if you and Chairman Esper could address whether you think there are any steps the legislature could take to deal with other retailers who don't have presences in Indiana. And Paul, I wondered if you could address why Amazon was willing to enter such an agreement when competitors might not have to.
Well, I think that the Amazon has such a presence everywhere, and then they have their attitude as a corporation has been for many years that this is the fair thing to do, that everybody ought to remit. We're willing to remit. We just think everybody else ought to join the table. Some of their competitors who may not have the nexus issue with the state of Indiana are still saying, no, we don't want to do it. We like the competitive price advantage. And so I think this step forward continues to put more pressure on them.
Thanks, Senator Kinley. As you know better than anyone in this room, Amazon has always worked with the Streamlined Sales Tax Project to work collaboratively towards federal legislation. We have not been in opposition to it like eBay and some others. You'd have to ask them why they oppose. One of the reasons they give, however, is that it would be too hard to collect for small businesses. We reject that notion. We believe that if Amazon is able to collect, and we know we are, and we will be able to when the time comes, eBay can as well. And so we look forward to a federal regime which would draw eBay into collection as well as Amazon.
And you don't think this would be a competitive disadvantage?
No. We offer low prices. Analysts have noted this before, time and time again, regardless of whether sales tax is collected. We actually collect in something like 55% of our jurisdictions worldwide, and so we will be fine.
Mr. Miser, why do you need 2 years then, sir? You're already doing it in 3 states. You have all the technology at hand. You're a technology-based company. Why do you need 2 years?
Yeah, to get the federal legislation done. As you probably are aware, this is a federal presidential election year. We want to get it done this year. We're hopeful, but we may need 2013 to accomplish it.
I want to throw something in there that the uniqueness of this arrangement, that I think we all understand that a federal solution is the only solution, whether it's eBay or whomever else it is that you're talking about. But there are presently only 7 states in the nation that are actually in which Amazon is collecting and remitting to the state. So when we talk about why are we waiting 2 years, it seems to me we're ahead of the game, if you will, that Amazon is working very strongly and well and very in good faith with Indiana to be a good corporate citizen. So I appreciate the fact that they're going to be online in 2014. And Indiana is, in fact, doing uniquely well in the nation in terms of this area. Amazon has said and made it very clear that a federal solution is the only solution. Streamlined sales tax that Senator Kinley has been working on, that is the answer. So this is a first step for Indiana. But hopefully within and before 2 years, it will become the reality nationwide.
How much is this worth? How much money might this increase sales tax collected by?
Our estimate for Amazon is 20 to 25 million a year, and just to size that for you, that's between a third and maybe a fifth of the unpaid online sales taxes that are estimated to be out there. So this is a large piece, but it is only a small fraction of the entire problem, and that's why Luke's been right all this time to press for a complete all-payer solution.
Governor, the Democrats returned to the floor in Indiana House this afternoon. Your take on this?
I have no idea, but I'm glad they came back. I respect their right to make a gesture that indicates the depth of their conviction on a subject, and I don't think 3-4 days, whatever it was excessive. I think, but I'm glad they're come back to business now. I think it's appropriate and time to get to work.
We addressed their walkout concerns with right to work during your State of State speech.
No.
So are you going to be talking about the right to work tomorrow?
Well, I'll talk about everything, or most of the items on our legislative agenda, as well as a very extensive agenda we have set for ourselves as an administration. A lot of tasks we've assigned ourselves. So yeah, it'll get mentioned along with many other items.
Do you expect legislative items you have in your sheet so far to be included in your speech?
Well, if I told you now, it wouldn't be much of a surprise tomorrow, would it? But it's a darn good try, Rick.
Will you be taking an overview of your entire administration in that since it's your last one?
No, that time for that is a long time from now. I think this once a year family meeting, so to speak, is a time to talk about the future, talk about where we are, the good and the bad, and how we build a better future. So in that respect, I don't think it's any different than the first 7.
Should we expect any surprises?
Well, again, if I told you now, it wouldn't be as big a surprise.
I asked specifically about child support. You didn't bring that up. That's something you mentioned in the past.
That's not in the speech presently, no.
Governor, as part of the Amazon deal, sir, did Amazon receive any incentives as part of the deal? I haven't read the deal, so I don't know what she
No, zero.
No tax breaks, no.
No, and they didn't for the facilities they put in the state so far, by the way.
Will the Amazon issue have any effect on, or discontinuing the estate tax collection?
I think that's a good question for one of our tax writers to answer.
What's your question, Dane?
The estate tax, there's been some talk about, doing away with that. Is there any connection?
Well,
You're the one that led, you're going to.
I'm the guy that
You're going to use the federal change in order to use.
I'm the guy that put my foot in my mouth, wasn't I? You know, I think that if we could get the federal authority to collect, and my estimates are a little bit higher than the governor's as to what I think we'll generate out of that, I think that gives us a perfect opportunity to do something that we've considered for many years, which would be the phase out or the elimination of the inheritance tax. And the reason that that's important is we have many Indiana residents who are taking up residency in their older age in other states just to avoid that, and we need to deal with that issue.
Mr. Miser, everybody's being very praising you in this. I'm curious, though, how did this finally come about? Did you contact the state? Did you working with the state? Did they contact you? How did this finally come about?
Well, as you know, our fulfillment business already has a significant presence in the state, and we are a very happy corporate citizen. Indiana is a terrific place to do business, and we've been very happy since our first facilities. We continue to want to grow, and the administration and the legislative leadership both took on a very cooperative attitude and raised this question with us and asked us about it. And we found that we were fellow travelers looking for that federal legislation. Senator Kenley and I testified right next to each other before the U.S. House Judiciary Committee a couple months ago seeking that federal legislation. And we saw we're on the same side of this, and so it was great to be able to work with the state to reach this agreement.
Did the Simon lawsuit spur these sort of talks along to reach an agreement?
I would just say it was just one more indication of a widespread view, which we all share, that the status quo is not fair. So I would characterize our discussions with the company over a long period of time as polite and persistent, and they've agreed to move forward here, whether or not we get the federal legislation, which we're all determined to get. But I think it's statesmanlike on their part to make that agreement.
Senator, why should this put more pressure on the outcomes, as you said? Why don't they just say, hey, great, our competitive advantage just got bigger?
Why should it put more pressure on who?
On the other .coms, the non-Amazon .coms?
Well, when Paul and I testified in front of Congress, it was very clear that all of those there, and eBay had a vice president there, and Overstock.com, they actually had their CEO there, and they all assured the Congress that it was very important for them to do the fair and the right thing. And so I think that in the discussion of what is that fair and the right thing, this is one more indication that they need to revise their thinking and come to the table and help us work this out.
Thanks, everybody.